It's time for Dodger Baseball. Live from Dodger Stadium, KCAL 9 presents the Dodgers as they take on the San Francisco Giants. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Tuesday evening to you, wherever you may be. Dodgers win last night. Giants have still beaten them 5 out of 7, but the Dodgers take the field tonight with a 3-game winning streak, only the second time this year they've won that many in a row. The end of last year, they had a 6-game winning streak. The Giants are hurting a bit. They've lost 7 out of 10, and we'll take a look at the pitching for tonight. The Dodgers will have Stephen Fife. He is 1-4, but don't let that fool you. He's made 10 Major League starts. In 9 of the 10, he's allowed 2 runs or less. He started once against the Giants. That was last July. He went 6 1/3 innings, allowed 1 run, and had no decision. For the Giants, a young left-hander out of St. Louis and Springfield, Missouri, Mike Kickham. He's been at Fresno, called up earlier this year, started against Oakland, gave up 4 runs in 2 1/3 innings, and they sent him back. So they've called him up for a second shot. So it's the Giants and the Dodgers. And by the way, we're going to talk about a man named Puig coming up before the game right after this. Wait the start of Game 2 of the 3-game series with the Giants. The big talk in baseball today comparing young Puig and young Jackson. After 20 games, a rather remarkable difference. Of course, in some of the games where Jackson played, he was the designated hitter. But nevertheless, through 20 games, Yasiel Puig is way out in front of Bo Jackson. Then you take a look at the way they swung the bat. Last night, we saw Puig homer to right field on a good pitch. It was not a mistake pitch. And then we remember a high fastball at Yankee Stadium, and Bo reached the seats. And he wasn't through. He had a monstrous home run in the All-Star game in Anaheim. And Yasiel Puig, with 7 home runs in his first 20 games, he came back, got a pitch up, and hit it out about 420 feet to right center field. One, Jackson, 6'1", 220. Puig, 6'3", 245. We'll check in 8 years. We'll be back after this. Dodger Baseball on KCAL 9 is brought to you by your Southern California Toyota dealers. We make it easy. By the Super Bacon Cheeseburger with 6 strips of crispy bacon only at Carl's Jr. And by your Southern California Chevy dealers. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Tuesday evening to you, wherever you may be. It's the Giants and the Dodgers. That ought to be enough for anybody who loves baseball. Figuring to put on another tough push against shove show. Last night, as you may remember, the Dodgers winning 3-1. Yasiel Puig having a big night with a home run and 2 singles, as the Dodgers finally made it to 3 in a row. Not much, but it is 3 in a row. For the Dodgers tonight, they'll be facing a Giant ball club that's been hurting of late. You used to think of San Francisco as the big boppers from the Bay. Well, it comes somewhat of a shock when you look at their lineup. They've had 1 home run in their last 10 games. They've been out-homered 17 home runs to 3 in the last 14 games. But here they are. Gregor Blanco in center and Marco Scutaro at second. Buster Posey behind the plate. Pablo Sandoval at third. Hunter Pence in right field. Brandon Belt at first. Andres Torres in left field. Then you have Brandon Crawford at short. And young Mike Kickham on the mound. On the mound for the Dodgers, Stephen Fife with a record of 1-4. He has only 1 start against the Giants. That was the July 27th of last year's start. He went 6 1/3 innings, allowed 1 run, and he had a no decision in the game. Stephen Fife, 6'3", about 215. He'll be 27 in October. He was originally drafted by the Red Sox in the 3rd round 5 years ago out of the University of Utah. He's from Boise, Idaho. In fact, he played for Boise in the 1999 Little League World Series. So here's Stephen Fife going up against the Giants. Gregor Blanco will lead off, and here are the Dodgers with the leather. Gonzalez and Ellis, Ramirez and Punto, Puig, Kemp and Ethier and Fedorovich behind the plate, handling Fife. Matt Kemp returns to the Dodgers, returns to the starting lineup, and he's in center field, hitting 5th in the lineup. Andre Ethier moves over to right, a more familiar territory, and this will be the first start for Yasiel Puig in left field. Gregor Blanco has had a great month of June, hitting .363 during the month. Blanco, as he checks in, has been the spearhead for the Giants, hitting .302, just 1 home run, however, and 26 runs batted in. Fife comes back, and there's a roller up along second base. Kemp has it, makes the play easily. 1 away. So Mark Ellis handling the ground ball from Blanco. Beautiful evening. The temperature 73 degrees. So 1 out on the ground ball, and the batter will be Marco Scutaro. We were talking about Scutaro last night. He is a high percentage contact hitter. In fact, when he swings, he makes contact 94% of the time. However, it was not his night last night. He swung and missed for strike 3 to end the game. Scutaro takes the first pitch that misses. 1 ball and no strikes. Interesting for the Giants, we were talking about their lack of home runs. Scutaro takes away for ball 2. The Giants in June have hit 8 home runs. Jay Bruce of Cincinnati all by himself has hit 10. Pedro Alvarez of Pittsburgh has hit 9. And Yasiel Puig has hit 7. Scutaro waiting, right-hand batter. The next one dips in for a strike. We have Gary Cederstrom, the plate umpire. Vic Carapazzo, Kerwin Danley, and Lance Barksdale working the lines. Final game of the series tomorrow night. Clayton Kershaw and Tim Lincecum. And the next pitch from Fife a little low, and he's behind 3-1. So Clayton, along with a covey of pitchers, Lincecum draped on the railing in the Giant dugout. They'll go head-to-head, matching Cy Young awards. It's 2-1 in favor of Lincecum. 3-1 pitch, and that's over for a strike. 3-2 the count. On deck, Buster Posey, who rarely makes any mistakes, but he made a severe base running mistake last night. Here's the 3-2 pitch. Scutaro swings, pops it in the air, foul behind the plate. Fedorovich comes back, but it's in the stands. Fedorovich lost sight of the ball immediately, and Fife pointed high in the air to give him a tip. But by the time Timmy turned around, it was well back in the stands. So 3-2. It is a tough time. The lights are on, but they really don't take effect at this time. Brilliant blue canopy overhead. The stands in the right field corner and the right field pavilion awash in sunlight. 3-2 the count. Scutaro swings, hits it in the air to center. Kemp goes back and then to his left and makes the catch for the out. So 2 down in the first inning, and the batter is Buster Posey. When you first learn to play the game of baseball, and one of the things, if you're lucky enough, you have a teacher to tell you about running the bases. And you don't just step on top of the base, anything but. You try to step on the inside of the bag. Last night, Posey stepped on the outside of the bag, lost his foot as he slipped, and that cost the Giants a huge run. So here's Buster at the plate. He rarely does anything wrong, and he takes ball 1. Posey, the heart of the ball club, and hitting third, batting .307. 8 home runs, 42 runs batted in. He did have a double last night. The 1-0 pitch is swung on. That's popped in the air to the left side. Ramirez waiting and waiting and squeezes it for the out. So the Giants go 1-2-3. Stephen Fife walks off, and at the end of half an inning, it's the Giants nothing. Dodgers coming up, and here comes Mike Kickham. Stephen Fife fell behind on all 3 hitters, but he got them all, made only 11 pitches. Now we'll take a look at Don Mattingly's card. It'll be Mark Ellis leading off at second base, Yasiel Puig in left field, Adrian Gonzalez at first, and Hanley Ramirez at short. Matt Kemp in center field, Andre Ethier in right, Tim Fedorovich behind the plate, Nick Punto at third, Stephen Fife on the mound. On the mound for the Giants, Mike Kickham. Kickham. He's out of Missouri State. He was born in St. Louis, lives in Springfield, went to Crowder Junior College, and then went to State on a baseball scholarship. Missouri State has featured about 6 pitchers who have made it to the big leagues. People like Ross Detweiler, Brad Ziegler, Sean Markham, etc. He has an identical twin brother, a right-handed pitcher who was drafted by the Rockies but didn't sign, drafted by the Tigers 2 years ago and signed. So it could be one day the 2 brothers would go against each other, a left-hander and a right-hander. So Kickham, fastball, slider, curve, and a change. He's 6'4", 210, and Mark Ellis will be the first to test him. Kickham works from the third base side of the rubber. Sandoval up even with the bag at third. And the first pitch on the outside corner for a strike. 0-1. Mark hitting .266. He has 3 home runs, 18 runs batted in. Drew blanks last night, 0 for 3. Strike one pitch on the way is swung on, fouled away outside of first, and the count 0-2. Yasiel Puig is on deck, and we were doing a lot of research on Puig. At the end of his 19 games, for instance, he had 52 total bases. Now at the end of 20 games, he has 58. Ellis swings, fouls it away. Joe DiMaggio, after 19, had 59. And there have been some players who made some big splashes, and we're trying to use Ellis's at-bat to talk a little bit more about Puig. Here's the strike 2 pitch on the way to Mark, and it is swung on and fouled. Did you ever hear of Mandy Brooks? Well, I doubt it, but nevertheless, he came up in 1925. He had .370, had 8 home runs and 28 RBIs in his first 19 games. Pretty much disappeared. Strike 2 pitch on the way outside and high. Alvin Davis and Willie McCovey. They both broke in, had 59 total bases in 19 games. George Scott, do you remember him with the Red Sox? We'll talk about his 19 games. Here's the 1-2 pitch to Mark Ellis, high again. George Scott hit .343. He had 9 home runs through 19 games. Struck out 150 some odd times. Maybe you remember Josh Rutledge last year. He had a .355 average in his first 19 games. Ellis takes strike 3, and down he goes. So 1 out, and now here comes Puig. So we will see about Yasiel Puig. We opened up the broadcast tonight, posting numbers. The difference between Puig's first 20 games and Bo Jackson. Among other things, Puig is a bigger man than Bo. Bo was about 6'1", 220. Puig is 6'3", 245, hitting an amazing .442, 7 home runs, 14 runs batted in. Kickham ready and deals, and the first pitch swung on and missed. Puig is definitely a first pitch swinger. When he does put that first pitch in play, he was hitting around 800. 0-1 the count. Kickham ready, back he comes, high and tight, which is what's going to happen. And Puig will take a little walk before coming back up to the plate. It's a little tough at this hour, too, to see that baseball. That almost got him on the elbow. So Kickham now with a 1-1 pitch on the way, and it is swung on and missed, and that was away, which I think will be the pattern. You'll see it from Lincecum tomorrow night, I believe. Fastballs up and in to crowd him, and then sliders down and away. Here's the 1-2 pitch on the way. Kickham's fastball sliced foul off to the right, out of play. So they're going to work on Puig. He's going to try to adjust, and we will see. Of course, when you're talking about numbers and even starting to compare him with Bo Jackson, who is probably a better football player than a baseball player, but Jackson played 8 years. 1-2 pitch on the way is taken low and inside. 2-2. For those watching on television, Bo Jackson first 20 games, he had 215. He only had 14 hits. He hit just 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, and he hit .292. For Puig, out of sight. 34 hits, 7 home runs, 14 ribbies, on base percentage .476. All right, the 2-2 pitch. Time. Puig backs out for a moment. Now the right hand batter up. Kickham ready. Here he comes again, low and inside. 3-2 the count. So Mike Kickham out of Missouri, the Show Me State, and he's trying to show the Giants this second time around that he deserves to pitch in the big leagues. 3-2 the count. Mike backs off the rubber. Puig backs out of the box. Kickham made his first start earlier this year against Oakland. Bad start, 4 runs in 2 innings, and he was back in Fresno. 3-2 fastball is swung on. High fly ball, but it's playable in right center. And over to catch it will be Gregor Blanco. So 1 down. So Puig along out the other way. And we have 2 down in the first inning. And the batter now will be Adrian Gonzalez. Dodgers have had pretty good success against left-handers at home. They are 10-6 at home. Dodgers, like most teams, struggling on the road. Against left-hand starters on the road, they are 2-10. So here's Adrian Gonzalez with 2 out, bases empty, and Adrian takes a strike on the outside corner. 0-1 the count to the Dodger first baseman. Hit a flat spot, now starting to perk up again. The strike 1 pitch on the way. He takes another strike and the count 0-2. Gonzalez last night 0 for 4. Adrian back up and waiting, hitting .297. He has 10 home runs, 47 runs batted in, and takes 1 low. 1-2 the count. So Mike Kickham making his second major league start. 6'4", 210. He's only 24. He'll be 25 in December. The 1-2 fastball is swung on and missed, and that'll do it for Gonzalez and for the Dodgers. And Kickham has done just that, striking out 2 of the 3 he faced, and at the end of an inning, no score. Sandoval, followed by Hunter Pence, and then Brandon Belt and Stephen Fife ready to go to work. The old line about there are many, many ways to spread the parsley around the fish. Well, Stephen Fife was behind on all 3 batters, got him with 11 pitches. Mike Kickham was ahead of all 3 batters, made 18 pitches, struck out 2, and got him in order. So into the second we go, a left-hander against a right-hander. And of course tomorrow night it'll be the same, Tim Lincecum versus Clayton Kershaw. Here's Pablo Sandoval, switch hitter, batting left-handed, takes in on the knuckles. 1 ball and no strikes. Sandoval hitting .293, 8 home runs, 7 of them hit left-handed. 37 runs batted in. Pablo coming off the DL, and the Giants sorely missed him. He provides a lot of the power, he and Hunter Pence. So Sandoval at the plate, then Pence and Belt. Fife stands and pitches from a stretch, and the 2-0 pitch swung on, pop foul off third, and that's going to find its way just behind the Dodger dugout roof and in the stands. 2-1 the count. Both the Giants and the Dodgers suffer from the same malady, and that is they can't win on the road. The Giants on the road are 14-23. The Dodgers are 13-22. The 2-1 pitch is swung on and missed, 2-2. It's been one of the oldest rules in the game. You play 500 on the road, and you do your winning at home, and you'll be okay. When you look at the leaders in the divisions, the #1 team on the road would be the St. Louis Cardinals. Sandoval takes in the dirt. Cardinals are 25-13 on the road. And of course, Bruce Bochy and Don Mattingly would love to know the secret. Bochy, by the way, is getting close. He needs 8 more wins to give him 1,500 as a big league manager. As Sandoval swings, fouls it away. Count stays 3-2. 8 to go. Remarkable. Big, strong, quiet Bruce Bochy, and a very strong leader. The 3-2 pitch to Sandoval. Pablo swings, hits it, and speared at third base by Nick Punto. Punto had to get every ounce and every bit of stretch in his body to catch it. Nick is only 5'9", and he went up the ladder to the top rung, and his timing was perfect. So Sandoval lines out to Punto. 1 out in the second inning. Good play by Nick, spelling Juan Uribe tonight. And the batter is the constant in motion Hunter Pence. I guess it's an old line. The first time I ever heard it, Fred Haney, who was the manager of the Pirates, had been a longtime broadcaster here in the Los Angeles area. And he was talking about one of his pitchers, Lou Burdette, who really was Mr. Fidget. And he said Burdette would make Coffee nervous. Strike 1 pitch is swung on and missed. Well, if you just keep your eyes on Hunter Pence, the next time you come or on TV, he would make Coffee nervous. He never stops, and he's a terrific player. Right-hand batter bends at the knees and waist, takes in the dirt. 1-2 the count to Pence. Hunter Pence in last night's game had 2 singles and a walk. Chokes up on the bat, which you rarely see from a big man. And the 1-2 pitch on the way is taken low and inside. 2-2 the count to Hunter Pence. Waiting on deck, the left-hand hitting Brandon Belt. Here's the 2-2 pitch, and Pence swings, loses his bat, hits a high foul off third. Punto leans over into the crowd and caught it. He had to wait for the official call by Lance Barksdale. So Punto makes 2 gems, one going up in the air and the other stretching into the stands, and that means 2 down. There goes Nick angling across right at the box seats, reels in. There are 3 or 4 fans that look like fighting him for the ball, and Nick was still able to win it. One of the fans looked like he was trying to catch it with his cap. There was a glove up there as well. Somehow, the biggest problem was, well, it was provided by Dodger fans. So Punto overcomes the Dodger fans. Meanwhile, Belt, first ball swinging, grounds it to Gonzalez, and that's it. So Stephen Five has retired 6 in a row. Punto has made 2 contributions, and at the end of an inning and a half, no score. Saturday, Dodgers and Phil, 7:10. Be one of the first 40,000 fans in attendance. You'll receive your own set of Dodger earbuds, compliments of T-Mobile. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. Bottom of the second inning, Hanley Ramirez, Matt Kemp, and Andre Ethier against young Mike Kickham, who struck out 2 of the first 3 faced, getting Ellis and Gonzalez on strikes. Hanley batting .351, 4 home runs, 11 runs batted in. Kickham looks down the barrel to get a sign. The left-hander ready. Here he comes. And the first pitch missing low. Ball 1. 1-0. Hanley with a little 7-game hitting streak. 1 for 4 last night. The 1-0 pitch on the way. Hanley takes a look, and that's a little low. And he has the count his way. If I were Matt Kemp, I would imagine there are some butterflies. Hadn't played in a long time. Only had 2 games in Albuquerque. He's waiting on deck. 2-0 pitch on the way to Hanley Ramirez, and that is in for a strike. And the count 2-1. I was just thinking how time flies. They're talking about Bruce Bochy having won 1,500. You think of Don Mattingly as just starting, but Don Mattingly on Sunday won his 200th game. Here's the 2-1 pitch to Ramirez. That's inside. So Kickham falls behind in the count, 3-1. This is the 8th meeting, so they have a lot of work left during the year. Giants have won 5 of 7. Now the 3-1 pitch to Hanley Ramirez. Swung on, roller wide to third. Sandoval is on it, throws him out. 1 down here in the second inning. And now the return of Matt Kemp. It has to be somewhat of an emotional moment for him, I'm sure. So Kemp coming up. Matt settling in. First game since the 29th of May. Into the windup goes Kickham. The first pitch to Kemp. That's on the outside corner for a strike. And the count 0-1. It was such a surprise that Kemp is playing. He's hitting .251. 2 home runs, 17 runs batted in. They didn't really have him on the note sheet. He takes in the dirt. 1 ball and 1 strike. I think most people here thought that Matt Kemp would have another, 4 or 5 more games before coming back. But he had just 2. I think he went 1 for 8. I also believe he struck out 5 times. But he says he's ready, and here he is. The 1-1 pitch to Matt Kemp is taken for a strike, and the count 1-2. Matt naturally would like to get off on the right start. He certainly doesn't want to strike out. Remember, he struck out 60 times already. Kickham looks in. Kemp waits. The left-hander ready. Here he comes. It's swung on, hit in the air to right field. Pence going back, still on the grass, and makes the catch for the out. So a long fly ball to right by Matt Kemp. That's 5 in a row retired by young Michael Kickham. And the batter now is Andre Ethier. Andre Ethier did an absolutely wonderful job moving from right field to center. Hitting .252 with 5 home runs, 21 runs batted in. He showed he could cover a lot of ground, showed he had a good arm. Made a wonderful play in Yankee Stadium to get Robinson Cano going into right center and throwing Cano out at second base. Kickham ready. First pitch, fastball off the plate, ball 1. 1-0 the count to Andre Ethier. Kickham checking. Now into the windup. The 1-0 pitch on the way. Swung on. Ground ball up the middle. Over to get it. Second baseman Scudero to make the play. And that's the inning. So we've had 12 batters, 6 in a row retired on each side. And 2 innings in the books. Giants nothing. Dodgers nothing.
It's time for the MasterCard.
Is brought to you by Honda. Visit your Honda dealer for great deals. Only a Honda is a Honda. By Time Warner Cable. Enjoy all the things you love better. Call Time Warner Cable 1-855-WANT-TWC. And by 76. We're on the driver's side. Third inning on a beautiful late afternoon, early evening. The temperature 73 when the game started. The spires reaching up to the sun in downtown Los Angeles. And it'll be Andres Torres, Brandon Crawford, and then Mike Kickham, the pitcher. And the first pitch to Torres is high, ball one. The way the Giant lineup is stacked, since Andres Torres is a switch hitter batting left-handed, they have 4 left-hand batters at the bottom of the lineup. Torres takes another one high. 2-0 to Andres. He's been red hot, hitting almost .330 against left-hand pitching. That would get him up there high. He has a 4-game hitting streak. Now the next pitch to him is in for a strike. He has started 24 of 28 since Angel Pagan went down. 2 balls and 1 strike. Fife ready and deals. Fastball swung on and missed, and the count 2-2. Angel Pagan, by the way, underwent successful surgery today on his left hamstring tendon. 2-2 pitch on the way. Torres swings and misses. Down he goes. Dr. Neil Elatrash performed the surgery on Pagan at the Curl and Job Clinic here in Los Angeles. They figure that Pagan is out for the next 10 to 12 weeks. And boy, the Giants really miss him. He was a one-man destruction gang against the Dodgers. 7 in a row retired by Fife, his first strikeout. And now Brandon Crawford. He was a very, very vital part of the Dodger victory last night because he was in a very tough spot. He fouls a pitch back and the count 0-1. In the second inning last night, Joaquin Arias was aboard. Torres doubled him in. Arias strained a hamstring, had to leave. So Crawford did not expect to play, came into the game, and came up in the third inning with the bases loaded and made the last out on a fly ball. And then came up in the 5th inning with the bases loaded and hit into a double play by way of the mound. So it was a tough way to get into a game, and one reason why the Giants had only 1 run. 0-2 to Brandon, the pride of UCLA. And the strike 2 pitch is swung on and missed. Down he goes. By the way, UCLA is leading Mississippi State late in that championship game, 6-0. In fact, they're maybe 5 outs away from clinching in the College World Series. 2 strikeouts for Stephen Fife. And here's Mike Kickham. Kickham, left-hand pitcher, bats left-handed. Fife ready, deals down and away, ball 1. Kickham did not have an at-bat in his first major league start. He started, but he was gone. 1-0 the count. Fife comes back. It's swung on and fouled off. And the count 1 ball and 1 strike to Mike Kickham. Mike waiting, Fife pitching out of a stretch position as always. The 1-1 pitch on the way, pulled on the ground, picked up nicely by Gonzalez, takes it to the bag, and that's that. So that means 9 in a row retired by Stephen Fife, and at the end of 2.5 innings, no score. The Coca-Cola Value Pack is available for select Wednesday and Sunday Dodger home games. With your purchase, you'll receive 4 tickets, 4 Dodger dogs, 4 Cokes, and now you'll get 4 bobbleheads from the 2013 season, all starting at $18 per ticket. For more information, visit Dodgers.com/value. We're going to the bottom of the 3rd inning, and the value in this ball game, certainly the fact the hitters are struggling. It's part the time of the day, difficult to see the ball, and it's the talent of Stephen Fife and Mike Kickham. Fife has retired 9 in a row, making 35 pitches. So far, Kickham has retired 6 in a row, making 29. For the Dodgers, it'll be Tim Fedorovich, followed by Nick Punto, and then Stephen Fife. For the Dodgers, they're just giving A.J. Ellis a rest. They like him to catch Clayton Kershaw and Zach Greinke, so they felt give him a rest tonight, with Greinke sitting shoulder to shoulder with Kershaw and Capuano. The first pitch to Fedorovich, outside, ball 1. Dodgers would like to see Fedorovich catch more than once a week, though you might see him twice a week. He swings, whacks one into left field down in the corner, and that's going to bang off the box seats. By the time it's picked up by Torres, Fedorovich at second base with a stand-up double. Dodgers are very high on him. They would love it to have 2 solid catchers, and it looks like that's just what they have. Fastball up, out over the plate, and Fedorovich promptly bounced it off the box seat railing in left field. So FedEx, as they call him, delivers a double into the corner. Now you have Punto and Fife. Giants are not sure. They have Sandoval up, looking bunt. Belt, however, is not committed. Nick Punto last night had a double leading off the 8th inning, and that led to an extra run to give the Dodgers a 3-1 victory. Nick takes ball 1. Punto hitting .262. He has a home run, 12 runs batted in. Kickham ready and comes back. Fastball pulled on the ground. Diving stop by Sandoval, that gets up and throws him out. Nice play by Pablo. When you first see him, you certainly think he was built to be a catcher, but he's remarkably agile over there at third base. So he not only gets Punto, he prevents Fedorovich from advancing to third, and the batter will be Stephen Fife with Mark Ellis on deck. Stephen Fife is 0 for 5. He has struck out 3 of the 5 times. Right-hand batter. Kickham set, looks back at Fedorovich, double checks him. Now the left-hander comes to the plate, and the fastball is low, ball 1. 1-0 the count is Stephen Fife. Bottom of the 3rd, no score, just 1 hit. We just had it, the double by Fedorovich. Now the 1-0 pitch on the way. Fife waits, and the fastball is outside. 2-0 the count. Stephen checking with Tim Wallach. Davey Lopes open for visitors at first. Kickham set at the belt, and the left-hander's 2-0 pitch on the way to Fife. Stephen looks and pays the price. 2-1 the count. Kickham has been pitching professionally only since 2010. He won 11 last year at Richmond. 2-1 pitch coming up. Fastball swung on late. 2-2 the count. One of the things Kickham did, and it happened last year, he shortened his arm stroke, lowering his hands to his waist when he comes to a set position. That seemed to improve his ability to throw strikes. Now the 2-2 pitch on the way. Left-handed deals, fastball swung on and missed. Weren't sure whether he had fouled it or not. So 5 strikes out, 2 down. That would be the 3rd strikeout for Kickham. And it brings up Mark Ellis. Mark Ellis struck out in the first inning, 0 for 1, hitting .265, 3 home runs, 18 runs batted in. No score, bottom of the third. Dodgers had a leadoff double here in the third, but he's still out there, Tim Fedorovich. Fife has retired 9 in a row. So Fedorovich can take a pretty good lead. Neither Scutaro or Crawford can get close to him. And the pitch to Ellis is low. Ball 1. 1-0 to Mark. Yasiel Puig waiting on deck. He flied to right center in the first inning. 1 ball and no strikes. Kickham set. Mike ready. Here he comes. Fastball hit in the air to left field and deep. Back goes Torres to the wall. It is gone. Home run for Mark Ellis, and the Dodgers take a 2-0 lead. So the Dodgers get on the board first. They got on the board first last night when Puig hit a home run. The Dodgers as a team have hit 60 home runs. The Giants have hit 50. So Ellis clears the left field wall. Just did get over. In fact, Torres was hoping it would hit the wall and he would play the carom. For Kickham, he gives it up, and the Dodgers take the lead. When Kickham lost to Oakland, he gave up a home run. So he's given up 2 now in his brief career. Now here's Puig, who is really hitting early in the count. So you have to really be careful when he checks in. You don't want to look away. Puig waiting, Kickham ready. The first pitch way outside, ball 1. On a no count, in other words, the first pitch, he is 13 for 15 if he hits it. On an 0-1 count, he's 4 for 8. On a 1-0 count, which is right now, 583. He takes high, ball 2. So you put them all together, the first pitch or the second pitch, and believe it or not, Puig is hitting 686. Unreal. The 2-1 pitch on the way. Puig takes inside, 3-1 to count. They went 3-2. Mark Ellis certainly gets the Dodgers going in the right direction. Mark hits it out, and the Dodgers lead 2-0 for Mark, his 4th home run. 3-1 pitch to Yasiel Puig was outside a fastball that looked like it was out of the strike zone, but he swung on and fouled it away. Take a look. Yeah, that was outside. If you're watching on television, he had a leach across the plate. 3-2 the count. Kickham ready. Fastball, and that's fouled away. Fastball at 90. Yasiel Puig, 7 home runs, 14 runs batted in, 34 hits, and batting .456. Should have walked already. 3-2 pitch on the way, and another pitch that appeared to be out of the strike zone, and he fouls it off. He's shaking his head, I think, over the fact he has chased 2 out of the zone. But, of course, he is extremely aggressive. 3-2. What's the old story they say during the World Series? Yogi Berra said to Henry Aaron, "Henry, you have the label up on the bat?" Henry just said, "I ain't reading up here, Yog." Here's the 3-2 pitch to Yasiel Puig. Fastball pulled foul outside of third. So he's fouled a couple off to the right, pulled one foul, and he's still there. 3-2. Buster Posey thinking over his pitches. It's Posey's game, of course. You have a rookie left-hander who has never faced any of the Dodgers, though Posey's calling every pitch, I'm sure. Here's the 3-2 pitch to Puig. Fastball lined to left, but right at Torrey. He hit that thing right on the screws, but right at the left fielder. But the Dodgers get a double by Fedorovich, a home run by Mark Ellis. For Ellis clearing the left field wall, his 4th home run of the year, and the Dodgers take the field in the 4th inning, leading 2-0. a home run by Mark Ellis. Time to ask you a trivia question. In addition to Bruce Bochy, who was born in France, by the way, which two current Major League Baseball managers were also born outside the United States? Bruce's dad was a sergeant in the Army, explaining why he was born in Europe. Fourth inning, 2-0 Dodgers. Blanco followed by Scutaro and then Posey. Breaking ball strike, 0-1. Gregor Blanco grounded out in the first inning. Leadoff man, center fielder, having a tremendous month of June. 1-1 to count. Blanco in last night's game had 1 hit, so he's had 29 hits in the month. Takes way off the plate. 2-1. Gregor waiting, 2-1. Lifts it in the air to left field, moving over to his left, almost overrunning it. Puig had a little trouble on that, but he made the play, takes the glasses off. It is different, I'm sure, going from right field to left. Left-hand batter, so the ball had a little slice to it. He was starting almost to overrun the ball, and then he jammed on the brakes. So 1 away. Every fly ball will be an adventure until he feels at home out there. Now the batter is Scutaro. Fly to center in the first inning. Ball 1. We've talked about it before. In some ways, center field is the easiest of the 3 outfield positions. Oh, granted, you have to cover a lot more ground. But as far as seeing the ball, that's the best spot. When you play a corner spot, you are looking at the hitter and you will lose the ball. For instance, right now with Scutaro, on a pitch inside, Ethier will see him because he's in right field. But in left field, Puig will lose the ball for a fraction of a second because of Scutaro's back. In center field, you don't lose the ball at any time. So it's a little different. 2-1 with Posey on deck. Fastball, that's lifted up into that light sky. Ethier comes in. 2 down. And the batter will be Buster Posey.
Catcher number 28, Buster Posey.
Posey last night on a 3-0 pitch hit a long fly ball to right. You may remember if you were with us, Puig went to the scoreboard, banged his head against it, never touched the ball. Looked like he dropped it, but then when we had the replay, he had never touched it. Originally they charged him with an error. Then they said nope, it's a double. So Posey last night had a walk and a triple off the scoreboard. Buster popped a short in the first inning. 0-1. And a drive to left. Puig started in, goes back and watches it go over the wall. A line drive home run, and the most puzzled guy in the park is Yasiel Puig. When that ball was hit, Puig actually took a step towards the infield and then turned around to play the carom, and it cleared the wall. So Buster Posey, a 2-out home run. For Buster, that would be his 9th home run. 43 runs batted in. There, Puig had already committed, and out she went. Whoops, go back, look for it, in the seats. So it's 2-1 in favor of the Dodgers. Puig getting a work out there in left field. Sandoval drives one to center. Matt Kemp goes back, and that's that. But that is a run on a swing by Buster Posey. And at the end of 3.5 innings, Dodgers lead 2-1.
Challenge presented by
Tonight's winning combination is 14, 12, 3. Enter now on kcal9.com/bonus combo. Sponsored by Jack in the Box.
Well, Sunday in San Diego is 1-1 going into the ninth inning. Last night they were battling 1-1 going into the eighth inning. And tonight it's 2-1 Dodgers as we go to the bottom of the fourth. So the Giants and the Dodgers playing it tough like the Padres did. And for the Dodgers, Adrian Gonzalez, Hanley Ramirez, and then Matt Kemp. Gonzalez struck out in the first inning, batting .295. Mike Kickham about ready to go to work. Breaking ball up, ball one. Adrian 10 home runs, 47 runs batted in. Fastball, little high, 2-0. So Kickham, who lasted 2 1/3 innings in his major league debut against Oakland, is now working in the fourth, down 2-1. Fastball, and again just missing. On deck, Hanley Ramirez. Gonzalez hitting .295 against left-handers. That's in there. 3-1. Little fly ball, shallow left. Crawford out and makes a dazzling catch. Brandon Crawford taking a base hit away from Adrian Gonzalez over the shoulder while sliding. Fine play. Wonderful play. So Gonzalez losing a base hit. Hanley Ramirez grounded to third in the second inning. One away. Good play by Brandon. He's a good shortstop. Ramirez 0 for 1 with that 7-game hitting streak. That's low, ball one. Ramirez has been red hot, hitting over 400 against right-handers, but left-handers have really cooled him off. He's hitting only 188 against left-handers. And this time he lifts one. Sandoval lost it. Going out is Crawford. And he makes the catch in foul ground. Pablo Sandoval had no idea where that ball was. As soon as it was hit, Pablo threw his hands in the air.
Center fielder, number
and
27.
Crawford saw it all the way. So Ramirez pops out. 2 putouts for Brandon Crawford. Take another look. Sandoval, where's the ball? Crawford said, don't worry, I got it. And with 2 down, the batter is Matt Kemp. All right, Pablo. Pablo hit that line drive that Punto went up and grabbed in the second inning. 1 ball and no strikes to Matt Kemp. Fly deep to right in the second inning. Pence caught it about 3 feet from the track. 1 ball and no strikes to Matt. Hitting .250. Ball 2. Matt had 2 home runs, 17 RBIs when he had to leave the club right near the end of May. And that's skied off first base. Belt angling over towards the stands, reaches over and makes the catch. Belt's a big boy, he's 6'5", and he can handle that glove. So down go the Dodgers in the fourth inning, and at the end of 4, Dodgers 2, Giants 1. Thursday at 7:10. The first 50,000 fans in attendance receive a Sandy Koufax bobblehead for their collection. Compliments of Mitchell and Ness. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. Just the other day was the anniversary of Sandy at 19 making his major league debut against the Milwaukee Braves in 1955. Well, here's Hunter Pence, and probably bangs it into right field for a base hit. Now, when Pence gets aboard, he will give a pitcher a very bad time. Among other things, he's perfect as a base stealer. He is 13 for 13. So Pence, a leadoff single representing the tying run, and the batter Brandon Belt. Brandon Belt grounded out to Gonzalez in the second inning. So it'll be interesting. A lot of pressure on Fife trying to keep an eye on Hunter Pence. Big slow breaking ball for a strike. Belt had taken the stride, just locked at the plate, had to take it. It was 75 miles an hour. 0-1. One ball and one strike. Brandon Belt having a look at Tim Flannery. He's been struggling of late in the last 6 games, hitting less than 200. He's very tough when the tough get going, so to speak, in the latter innings of games. Fouled away. 1-2. He's very aggressive. That time was a classic example. He had started in, he was on his right foot, and it was an off-speed pitch. So he was locked, even though it was just 70 some odd miles an hour. Belt has 7 home runs, 32 runs batted in. 1-2. Little nubber charging and slanting as Punto can't make a play. So Belt just happens to dribble one by the mound and gets himself a base hit. So all of a sudden was no play that Punto could make. First and second and nobody out. Little roller. Nick knew no play, looked at second, there was no play there. Andres Torres struck out in the 3rd inning. So Pence at second, Belt at first, nobody out. Dodgers kind of look bunt. Punto now comes up, Gonzalez is up, and you have the left-hand hitting Crawford on deck. And a wild pitch. It was never even touched by Fedorovic. So I think they mixed up the signs. Fedorovic just watched it go by. So now they don't need the bunt. Second and third, nobody out. One ball and no strikes. Now they're going to talk it over. Torres waiting. Pence is now at third, the tying run. Belt a possible go-ahead run at second. Nobody out. Fife in trouble. Dodgers lead 2-1. One ball and no strikes. Torres hitting .267. And pops it foul out of play. As we mentioned, they have 4 left-handed batters starting with Belt. Torres switch hitter. Waiting on deck, left-hand hitting Brandon Crawford. One ball and one strike. Fastball grounded to the right side. That gets the tying run home. So scoring is Pence. The wild pitch, of course, really hurts. That's a double play ball otherwise. So 1 out. The game is tied 2-2. More importantly, Belt is now at third with 1 out. So Torres picks up the run. Brandon Crawford made two very good plays defensively in the 4th inning. Now coming up in the 5th. Hunter Pence down the line from 3rd. The infield is up. Crawford struck out in the 3rd inning. And pops it up. Fife has to get out of the way, and finally Ramirez makes the catch. Stephen was standing there. He wanted it, but wiser heads prevailed. So Crawford pops up to Hanley Ramirez. 2 out. Belt holding at 3rd. And the batter will be the pitcher, Mike Kickham. Who, by the way, hit the ball sharply in the 3rd inning, but right at Adrian Gonzalez. Two here in the 5th. Fife looks over at Pence. Breaking ball drops in for a strike, and the count 0-1. Kickham gives you that good strike zone. He's 6'4". And another breaking ball. 0-2. In the inning, Pence singled to right. Belt got an infield single, and then the wild pitch, which changed the whole inning. And another one. So 3 curveballs take care of Kickham. However, the Giants get a run, and we're heading to the bottom of the 5th inning in a 2-2 tie. Your Southern California Lexus dealer, who invites you to test drive a luxurious Lexus today. For more information, visit Lexus.com. By White House Down in theaters June 28th. And by Morongo Casino Resort and Spa. Good time. Beautiful evening here at Dodger Stadium, and quite a game as you usually get with the Giants and Dodgers. Andres Torres grounds out, but he picks up an RBI to tie up the game 2-2. Hunter Pence was scoring after a wild pitch set him up. Matt Kemp has so far gone 0 for 2. Kemp has fly deep to right and fouled out to first, so you're pretty well caught up. 2 runs, 3 hits for the Giants. 2 runs, 2 hits for the Dodgers. And it will be Andre Ethier, Tim Federovich, and Nick Punto against young Mike Kickham out of St. Louis and Springfield, Missouri. Kickham gave a double to Federovich opening up the 3rd inning, and then a 2-out home run to Mark Ellis. Ethier rolled out to Scutaro. Don't forget, tomorrow night, Tim Lincecum and Clayton Kershaw. Lincecum twice a Cy Young Award winner. Clayton has 1. Ball 1. Whoops, check. A little late call by Gary Cederstrom. 0-1 the count. Andre, 5 home runs, 21 runs batted in. 1 ball and 1 strike. And a line drive by the diving Scudero into the gap. Ethier on his way for 2. Pence a strong throw, but he's in there. So Lightning strikes twice. Fedorovich opened up the 3rd inning with a double. Ethier now opens up the 5th inning with a double, despite a good play by Hunter Pence and a strong throw into second base. Pence over, backhands it, and then came up throwing, and Andre is able to beat the throw to second. For Ethier, that would be his 14th double. So we have a tiebreaker at second, nobody out, with Fedorovich, Punto, and Fife due up. Totals are identical, 2 runs, 3 hits, no errors. And that's hit in the air to left, but here comes Torres to make the catch. So Fedorovich hits it hard. Maybe not as hard as that ball hit by Puig, but same result, right at Andres Torres. So now Nick Punto grounded to 3rd in the 3rd inning, and Stephen Fife to follow. Boy, what a nice night in the ballpark. It has to be as good or better tomorrow night. It was 73 degrees when the game started this evening. And of course, they're talking about it really warming up, I think, starting Thursday. Phils will be here for a 4-game series. Following Philadelphia, the Dodgers go out on a very important road trip, maybe the most important road trip so far this year, because they're all Western teams. Colorado, San Francisco, Arizona, and then come home to play Colorado. One ball and 1 strike. 90-mile-an-hour fastball down at the ankle. Stephen Fife on deck. One and 1. Fastball missed. Hickam throws 88 to 90. The gun has not gone above that. 1 out, 5th inning. Ethier at second base. 2-2 tie. Breaking ball this time for a strike. 2-2. Kick him basically. Fastball, curve he just threw. Has a slider and a change. Fastball fouled away. So Punto with a 2-ball, 2-strike count. 0 for 1 tonight. Hitting .260. Made 2 good plays. Now trying to do something offensively and pick up Ethier. Made a leaping catch of the ball hit by Sandoval. And went to the stands to catch the foul ball from Pence. Little roller going foul. Though the count remains 2 balls and 2 strikes. Michael Kickham has to be a hot weather man. Born in St. Louis, lives in Springfield, went to Missouri State. So he's pitching for a cool ball club in San Francisco. And ideal weather here. 2-2. Fastball sinks at 90. He was drafted 3 times. Then he was drafted by the Rockies. Then he was drafted by the Tigers. Finally Giants got him. 3-2. And a little flare into right field. Pence is going to play it on a bounce. Holding now and moving over to third is Ethier. Couldn't tell whether he might catch it or not. So the best Ethier could do was take one base. So Punto a single to right. Dodgers now first and third, one away. Stephen Fife talking to Tim Wallach while Buster Posey tosses to Mike Hickam. Fife with the bat does not have a sacrifice, but they will probably, I would guess, they would have him try to sacrifice, not to squeeze in Ethier, but to stay out of a double play and get Punto to second base. That would certainly be the thought. Bunt foul, 0-1. Boy, he bunted that more like in his mind he was bunting for a base hit. 0-1 to count. Oh, Wallach going through it again. Punto at first, Ethier at third, one out, fifth inning in a 2-2 tie, and Fife is not sure. He wants to talk to Wallach again. We mentioned last night, whenever you get a sign from the coach, usually if it involves base runners, you're going to sign back to him, okay, I got it. 0-1. Trying to bunt and takes a strike. 0-2. Mark Ellis, who homered, is on deck. So of course for the Dodgers the big thing is to hope that Fife doesn't hit into a double play. 0-2. He's going to try to bunt. Got it down, foul, he's done. So Fife strikes out, but the inning is still very much alive. And the batter will be Mark Ellis. Four strikeouts for Mike Hickam.
Second baseman, number 14, Mark Ellis.
So Mark Ellis, 1 for 2. That was a big one. Home run to left field with a man aboard. 2 runs, 4 hits for the Dodgers. 2 runs, 3 hits for the Giants. The Giants have left 1. Dodgers have not left anybody until this 5th inning, and they have 2 on. And that's a strike. 0-1. Fifth inning, Fife committed a wild pitch, and that was huge as the next batter, Torres, hit what would have been a ground ball double play. Instead, he got an RBI. Fastball away. For Hickam, he hasn't pitched enough. 1 start, 2 innings, no wild pitches. First and third, 2 out, 1-1 the count. Fastball, pull foul, 1-2. When the Giants come up in the 6th inning, they will have the top of the order, Blanco, Scutaro, and Posey. So Mark Ellis needs another bat. Take a look at 2, pick 1. In the 3rd inning, with perhaps his favorite bat, he unloaded, clearing the left field wall. Torres thought he might have a play, but the ball never came back. However, he has broken that bat or cracked it, so now he has a brand new stick. The gamer is gone. 1-2. He's now ready. That bat is glistening. It's brand new. 1 ball, 2 strikes. At his feet, 2-2. So deuces wild, 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, 2 on, 2-2. And ball 3. So among other things, Punto will be going. Belt is off the bag at first. Waiting on deck, Yasiel Puig. So this is a huge pitch. 3-2. Punto goes, fouled off. Kickham made 59 pitches coming into the 5th inning, and he's had to work a little hard here. A double and a single, but he has 2 out, and he's still tied, going all the way with Mark Ellis. Ellis does not walk much at all. 8 walks, 29 strikeouts. There goes Punto. And there's the ball, fly ball to left field. Torres is there, and that's the inning. So no runs, 2 hits, 2 left, and at the end of 5, a 2-2 tie. Lineup. That's certainly not news. At that time, he played in 1,953 games. And before Bill called it a Dodger career, he had played in 2,181 games, most games ever played by any Dodger in history. Sure miss Bill. He's around. We'd love to see him at the ballpark. Let's go back to this one. We have a 2-2 tie. We move into the 6th inning. Blanco, Scutaro, and Posey. Blanco has grounded out, flied to left, 0 for 2, and ball 1. Kickham has made 81 pitches through 5. 59 pitches made so far by Stephen Fife. Breaking ball in for a strike. Well, news I'm sure that'll make Brandon Crawford very happy. UCLA sweeps Mississippi State in the best of 3 College World Series finals. Won it last night 3-1, 8-0 tonight. Foul ball. That gives UCLA baseball program its first national title. And by the way, you know, the UCLA athletic program has won now 109 NCAA team championships. That's the most in the nation. So Brandon Crawford, a former Bruin who was an MVP of the ball club, He played under the head coach John Savage, who's in his 9th year. Interesting, too, what's happened in that UCLA baseball program. Check swing, they're going to look, no swing. Over his first 8 years, talking about John Savage, 58 Bruins have been selected in the Major League Baseball draft, including the numbers 1 and 3 in 2011. That would be Jarrett Cole and Trevor Bauer. Foul back. So normally you hear a lot about baseball and USC. You also hear about Cal State Fullerton, but it is UCLA, top of the heap tonight, winning the College World Series. 3-2 and ball 4. Barry Zito, we're not going to see him in this series, but I'm sure we'll see him before the year is over. Barry, an SC Trojan. Mark McGuire, of course, was a big man on campus as a Trojan. But they will salute UCLA tonight. And here's Scutaro. That walk by Fife is the first he has given up. Scutaro flied to center, flied to right, 0 for 2, and ball 1. He is the contact hitter in the game, which means he's extremely valuable. Hitting .327, 2 home runs, 18 runs batted in. And if you want to play hit and run, he's your guy. One ball and no strikes. Boy, this is the big leagues. Blanco over there has stolen 9 out of 13. So you know he can run. Scutaro, as we mentioned, a very, very fine contact hitter. And you can almost smell a play with this combination. Waiting on deck, Buster Posey. Blanco goes, hit and run, chopper to third, foul ball. So Blanco will go back to first. Scutaro pulls it foul, and the count 1-1. Boy, it's great to have a contact hitter. That's an extra weapon. You can run him, and he makes it work. Last year, Scutaro hit .366 against the Dodgers. He had 71 at bats against the Dodgers last year. He struck out 4 times. 4. We'll watch about Blanco now. He's not going. And ball 2. Scutaro last year was the MVP for the Giants in the NLCS. All he did was go 14 for 28. 3 doubles, 4 RBIs, scored 6. I mean, he's a terrific player. He got him from the Rockies, surprisingly enough. 2-1. Foul back. Well, a little surprised they didn't run Blanco 2-1. Last year with the Giants, 243 at bats. He struck out 14 times. Well, they're watching Blanco. Very much so. 2-2 tie, 2-2 count. Nobody out, 6th inning. Fedorovich looking over to the skipper to see not much he can do unless you want to call pitch out 2-2. Blanco's not going. High fly ball to left field. Puig still on the grass. So Scutaro, fly ball to left, 1 out. and the batter will be Buster Posey. Posey popped up to short in the first inning, but hit a line drive home run in the fourth. That was the line drive where Puig actually stepped in and then started to go back, and the ball just cleared the left field wall. Lesson learned. And fouled away off to the right out of play. Nice crowd on hand. We had 40,994 here last night, and this would appear to be a far bigger crowd for beach towel night. And then tomorrow night we should have a good crowd. The weather is perfect. It's the Giants and the Dodgers, and you have Lincecum going against Kershaw. There goes the runner. The throw high. Got him anyway. Blanco can't believe it. Good quick tag by Mark Ellis. So Blanco had stolen 9 out of 13, but they nail him this time. Throw appeared high, but then Ellis with a quick hand brought it down. It looked like Blanco was on the bag, but Kerwin Danley said no. Got him on the foot. So 2 out. They count on Posey, no balls, 2 strikes. There might be a pitch count number now for Stephen Fife down in the Dodger bullpen. The left-hander J.P. Howell. Sandoval, a switch hitter. And if they did bring him in, that would turn Pablo around. 2-2 the count to Buster Posey. Stephen Fife has made 74 pitches. Number 75 misses. Boy, that was close. 3-2. Dodgers will have Puig to lead off the bottom of the 6th. So he pitches around Posey, walks him. Here comes Sandoval. So let's see about J.P. Howell. Why is he throwing in the bullpen? Second walk given up by Fife.
Batting next, third baseman Pablo Sandoval.
One thing about Sandoval, he's got a better batting average hitting right-handed. So of course if they brought in Howell, that would turn him around. From the left side is where his power is. Of his 8 home runs, 7 hit left-handed. In the ball game, he lined out Punto and up in the air to Spirit, and last time up fly deep to Matt Kemp. Little roller foul. 0-1 to Pablo Sandoval, who is ambidextrous. When he plays professionally, he throws the ball right-handed, but they say he can pick the ball up left-handed and throw it as far as he does right-handed. 0-1 to Pablo. And line to left. Puig comes up and backhands it on the run. So Puig takes a base hit away and a run perhaps. Down go the Giants. Yasiel will be leading off the 6th inning. 2-2. Dodger Baseball on KCAL 9 is brought to you by Jaguar. See the new model year lineup at JaguarUSA.com. By the Super Bacon Cheeseburger with 6 strips of crispy bacon, only at Carl's Jr. And by Six Flags. Go full throttle on the world's tallest, fastest looping coaster. Now open, go big, go Six Flags. We have a 2-2 tie as we go to the bottom of the 6th inning. It'll be Yasiel Puig, followed by Adrian Gonzalez, and then Hanley Ramirez. Puig, long fly ball to right center. Hunter Pence caught it. He was not quite on the track, but it was pretty deep. And then last time up, he hit one right on the button, but it was a line drive right at Andres Torres in left field. Ball 1. Kickham has come up and in on Puig just once. 1 ball and no strikes. And away. And he wasn't even looking at that pitch, I don't think. That was way outside. He was just determined to swing, I think. 1 ball and 1 strike. Tied up completely on that. Good breaking ball down and in. 1-2 the count to Puig. Yep. Down he goes. So Puig goes 0 for 3. 1 away in the 6th. And the batter will be Adrian Gonzalez.
Adrian Gonzalez.
5 strikeouts for Kickham. And here's Adrian, who struck out and popped out. Wonderful catch by Brandon Crawford over the shoulder as he went into a slide. So Crawford responsible for a good play in the 4th. And now Adrian swings, doesn't get it. 0-1. 1 out, 6th inning. 2-2 tie. Dodgers scored 2 in the 3rd. Ellis homered with Fedorovich aboard. Giants have gotten them 1 at a time. Posey homered in the 4th. 2 base hits followed by a very costly wild pitch and a run scored on a ground ball, and that tied it up. Ramirez 0 for 2 with a 7-game streak. A line drive right field, and that's going to go down towards the fence. Gonzalez will make it to second base easily as Hunter Pence gets it back in. So a 1-out double by Adrian Gonzalez will bring up Hanley Ramirez.
Shortstop number 13, Hanley.
Pence giving him the right field straight away, and he had to go to the bullpen gate. So for Adrian Gonzalez, coming up with a double, that would be his 17th double this year. Hanley is grounded to third and fouled out to Crawford. That's a pop fly that Sandoval lost. Hanley 0 for 2. He has 4 home runs, 11 runs batted in. Gonzalez, tough man to score on a base hit. Ball 1. And with Ramirez up there, he doesn't have to worry about Crawford, but Scutaro is right there. So they certainly play Hanley on the infield to pull. The gap is in left center. One ball and no strikes. 1-1. Mike Kickham doing very well. Made his first debut against Oakland. Now he makes his first debut against the Giants. Wasn't around very long with Oakland. About 2 1/3 innings, but here he is in the 6th. 1-1. Boy, the infield. Brandon Belt is between first and second. Scutaro not quite, but almost at the bag. So Gonzalez can't stray too far. A drive down the left field line, hooking as she goes fair just inside the foul pole, and the Dodgers lead 4-2. Hanley Ramirez, a line drive, 2-run home run. For Hanley, his 5th home run. He has 13 runs batted in. That's also the 3rd home run in the game by Ellis, by Ramirez, and by Posey. Line drive that hit the foul pole right down the left field line. So the Dodgers now take that 4-2 lead. Everybody watching, our eyes were on Lance Barksdale, the third base umpire. And you can see the ball hit the screen and then caromed off.
Center fielder, number 27.
So Ramirez makes it 4-2 in favor of the Dodgers. And the batter now is Matt Kemp. Fastball away. 1-0 to Matt. Flied to right center and fouled out to first baseman Brandon Belt. Their center fielder Blanco shades him a little to right center. 2-0. Fastball away, and he hits it into right center for a base hit. Hit it off the end of the stick. He will take it. So Matt Kemp singles to right center, and that will bring up Andre Ethier. So with 1 out, the Dodgers had Adrian Gonzalez double to right. Ramirez homers. Dave Brighetti, the pitching coach, watching a young left-hander getting pushed around a little. And now the base hit by Kemp. So here's Ethier, and they wait until Blanco moves over slightly to left center. And Ethier is ready to step in. Matt Kemp over there at first base used to be a base stealer. He's 7 for 7 when he left the club. And ball 1. Four runs, 7 hits for the Dodgers. Hanley Ramirez busting a big home run. 2 runs, 3 hits for the Giants. 1-0. Ramirez gets the Dodgers the lead, and now Ethier singles to keep the rally going. And the Dodgers come up with their 4th consecutive hit. Double Gonzalez, homer Ramirez, single Kemp, single Ethier, and that's enough. Bruce Bochy making his way to the mound. Jake Dunning was up the last time we were down there in the bullpen, and we will see if it's Jake coming in, and we'll be right back. change in the big leagues. He was doing well for 5 innings, struck out Puig to begin the 6th, and then the sky fell on him as Gonzalez doubled, Ramirez homered, Kemp singled, Ethier singled, and he's gone.
Tim Fedorovich.
So the right-hander Jake Dunning, 6'4", they say 195. Boy, he is one drink of water. Built like a 2-iron, from Orange Park, Florida. Went to school at Indiana University, a 33rd round pick, and the Giants drafted him as a shortstop. But he wasn't hitting, so they turned him to pitch. Here he is. When they asked Jake Dunning, it was a very honest answer. They said to him, "Why did you change from shortstop to pitch?" He said, "Because I saw Brandon Crawford." And of course, Crawford, the shortstop, figures to hold that position for quite a few years. It reminds me in the old days when the Dodgers had 26 farm clubs, and you'd see all the names for one particular position, let's say shortstop. And you'd see 26 guys playing short in the Dodger minor league, trying to nudge Pee Wee Reese out of the lineup. Fedorovich, and ball 1. Fedorovich doubled, rode home on Ellis' home run, fly to left in the 5th inning. Fastball, slider, change, and a curve once in a while from the right-hander. And that's going to be hit into left field. Here comes Kemp around third. Good throw to the plate, but he's going to score anyway. 5-2 Dodgers. Stopping at second is Ethier. So Fedorovich comes up with his 2nd hit. Kemp brings it in. Ethier stops at second. 5 consecutive hits for the Dodgers. 5 runs charged to Kickham. And Ethier at second base is also his responsibility. Boy, that was a pumped up Matt Kemp coming home. 5 runs, 9 hits for the Dodgers. 2 runs, 3 hits for the Giants. Here's Nick Punto, still only 1 out. That was Puig, who struck out beginning the inning. Strike. 0-1. Nick batting .264. 0-1. And ground ball to short. They will get 1. Not in time at first. Punto going in there head first. Though the inning is still alive as Punto avoids a double play. And that will bring up Steve Fife, leading 5-2. Here's the hustle of Punto. The ball was not hit that hard, but it was still close, but he got in there easily. So that removes Fedorovich and advances Ethier to third. And Stephen Fife feeling a lot better about things. When the Giants come up in the 7th, they'll have Pence, Belt, and Torres. Ball 1. The outfield very shallow, and they give Fife all of left field. They don't believe he'd be able to pull the ball. One ball, no strikes. Foul back. Don't forget, tomorrow night, Tim Lincecum and Clayton Kershaw. Clayton Kershaw will be taking the mound 5-5, despite the fact he has an earned run average of 2. And a wild throw. The Dodgers get a gift run and lead 6-2 on the era. And that run is charged to Ethier. He brings it in. We'll put it in Kickham's row. So Michael Kickham now is charged with all 6 runs on the throwing error, charged by Young Dunning. That wasn't in the neighborhood. Belt tried to come up with it, couldn't do it. So the Dodgers have scored 4, lead 6-2, and Fife with a 1-ball, 1-strike count. Off speed in nicely. Dunning kind of bends like a reed in the wind. He's big and lean. Fastball and a good one. That will do it for Fife and the Dodgers, but not before 8 men come to the plate. The big blow, the home run by Ramirez, followed by 3 singles, a pickoff error, and the Dodgers lead the Giants at the end of 6, 6-2. By Chevrolet, find new roads. By Sports Authority, the official sporting goods retailer of the Los Angeles Dodgers. And by Acura. Acura Advance. Well, you talk about the Dodgers being excited. This crowd is pumped. It's been a while since they have seen the Dodgers score 4 in an inning, and it was electric with 5 straight hits. So the Dodgers take a 6-2 lead into the 7th inning with Hunter Pence, Brandon Belt, and Andres Torres, and Hanley Ramirez leading the way to the Dodger lead. High pop fly on the infield. Mark Ellis. So 1 pitch and 1 away in the 7th inning. So Pence, who had a base hit in the 5th inning, 1 for 3. Brandon Belt grounded out, hit a little squibber halfway, let's say, between the mound and third base. Wound up with a base hit. Giants have a home run. That means they've hit 2 home runs in their last 11 games. But the Dodgers have 2 home runs. That means the opposition right now has out-homered the Giants 19-4 in the last 2 weeks. So Hanley just added to the pounding. Foul ball, 1-1. Dodgers trying to wake up, make a move in the West, and now they have the chance. They're going to have to get through Philadelphia, but then Colorado, San Francisco, Arizona, and Colorado again before the All-Star break. High fly ball to right. Ethier going back to the track at the wall. Gone. About 5 rows back at least. Brandon Belt lives up to his name and hits it out. For Belt, his 8th home run, is 33 runs batted in, and that makes it Dodgers 6 and Giants 3. I think the crowd is disappointed They were looking out there waiting for the fan. Big hanging curveball. That's why he hit it out. They were waiting for the fan to throw the ball back, and he hasn't done it. I guess there's still a scramble for it. So a 1-out home run. Dodger lead 6-3. Here's Torres. Foul ball. J.P. Howell up again in the Dodger bullpen. Fife has now made 83 pitches. Fastball fouled away. In looking at Fife's pitch count, his high 93 pitches the middle of June in Pittsburgh. He made the 93 pitches in 5 innings and lost the game 3-0. Just off the plate. Torres has struck out and grounded out, picked up an RBI on the ground ball. One ball, 2 strikes. Slow curveball hit foul down the line. Punto, Ramirez, and Puig look out. And it was caught in fair ground. Boy, you talk about having concentration. I mean, if you're Ramirez, you know that Puig is coming somewhere. And yet you have to keep your eye on the ball and hope. So Torres pops to Ramirez. Nice play.
Shortstop number 35.
That's where he was. The closest, because of Puig's excitement, was in San Diego on a fly ball to right center. Ethier called, and Puig went by him like an express train, as if Ethier was standing on the station. Luckily, no collision, but it was frighteningly close. So 2 outs, 7th inning. You have Brandon Crawford coming in. Stephen Fife walks off after going 6 2/3 innings, having allowed 3 runs and getting a round of applause for his hard work. And we'll be right back. The trivia question, in addition to Bruce Bochy, who was born in France, which 2 current managers born outside the U.S.? Ron Gardenhire, West Germany, and Freddie Gonzalez, Cuba. Brandon Crawford facing J.P. Howell. Ground foul, 0-1. Crawford has struck out, popped up, 0 for 2. Crawford is 0 for 3 in the past against James Phillip, better known to the world as J.P. Howell, out of Modesto and Sacramento and the University of Texas. Good breaking ball. 0-2. JP, originally a first-round pick by the Royals, made it to Kansas City in 2008, then played for the Rays, and now the Dodgers. 0-2. Breaking ball away. Brandon Crawford, good solid shortstop. Stephen Fife, for only the second time in 11 major league starts has he allowed more than 2 runs. Tonight he's allowed 3, but he stands to pick up the win if the Dodgers can hold on to a 6-3 lead. 1-2. Another breaking ball. Well, that's all Crawford has seen. 4 big overhand curves, and they count 2-2. I'm sure Crawford was thinking of the College World Series when the Bruins won. JP pitched in the College World Series with Texas, and he misses with a fastball. He was in the College World Series back in 2004. So we've seen his curve and his fastball. He also throws a splitter. And that's probably stroked into right field. So Crawford, a 2-out single to right. And Tony Abreu, who appeared as a pinch hitter last night, will come up and bat for Dunning. Abreu struck out on what was a wild pitch in the 9th inning last night. But that same inning is when Kenley Jansen struck out the side. So Tony Abreu, who once upon a time was with the Dodgers very briefly back in 2007. Then he went on the DL. Then he was with the Dodgers 2009. He was originally drafted by the Dodgers way back in 2002. 0-1. Abreu, a switch hitter. He hit left-handed against Jansen last evening. Tony's been around. He'll be 29 in November. 5'9", 200-pounder from the Dominican, Puerto Plata. Chased a bad ball, 0-2 the count. Crawford holding at first. Abreu hitting .273. He's only been in 13 games. As a pinch hitter, he's 2 for 6. 2 out here in the 7th. 1 run in. Dodgers lead 6-3. Oh, 2. Foul ball. J.P. Howell 2-0 in his 30th game. Abreu up there hacking. No balls, 2 strikes. For Howell, 27 strikeouts, 12 walks. He's backed up by Ronald Belisario. 0-2 to Abreu. And line drive base hit on an 0-2 pitch. And Howell furious at himself. Now what you do by allowing a base hit 0-2, you're going to bring up the leadoff batter representing the tying run. And Howell is livid. So the dreaded no ball, 2 strike base hit. So Tony Abreu singles to left after Crawford had singled to right. Giants trying to come back now. Gregor Blanco grounded out, flied out, and walked. But Blanco suddenly representing the tying run. 6-3 Dodgers. 7th inning, 2 on, 2 out. Down in the pen, Ronald Belisario pauses for the moment. And ball 1. So Howell threw some nasty breaking balls to Brandon Crawford, but still gave up a base hit. and then goes 0-2 and gives up the hit to Abreu. That's in there for a strike. 1-1. Meanwhile, Stephen Fife sweating it out. He's 1-4. Looking for a second win, maybe. 1-1. And a good fastball in there. Outside corner. So he gets 2 strikes on all the hitters. Crawford, Abreu, and now Blanco. Blanco 0 for 2 in the past against Howell. One and two in the dirt. 2 balls and 2 strikes the count. J.P. Howell made his major league debut in 2005. He became the second fastest player in the history of the Kansas City Royals to reach the major leagues. Who was the fastest? Bo Jackson. That last pitch looked to be a splitter in the dirt. 2-2. And a breaking ball, and he misses 3-2. So the runners will be going with 2 out. 3-2 to Blanco. Blanco has walked only 18 times. He has struck out 48 times. This will be a very big pitch with Marco Scutaro on deck. Scutaro has not had much success against Howell. 1 for 14. But this is still a huge pitch. 3-2. Runners go. Breaking ball pulled foul. So Brandon Crawford goes back to second. Tony Abreu goes back to first. And that count remains 3-2 with 2 down. JP walking around on the grass deep in thought. Three balls, 2 strikes. Runners at the ready. Runners go. Swung on, ground ball. Gonzalez, nice pick. JP late and just did beat him. Whoa, he was late leaving the mound. So Stephen Fife is relieved on a very close play. Both the pitcher and the runner about ready to slide in the bag, and he just did beat him. 1 run, 3 hits, 2 left, 6-3 Dodgers. tonight. First, it was Mark Ellis clearing the left field wall. That was in the second inning with a man aboard. Then in the sixth inning, Hanley Ramirez coming up with the big home run that hit the foul pole and caromed off into fair ground. Matt Kemp coming back tonight had a base hit. So did Andre Ethier. And the Dodgers with 2 on had Fedorovich come up with a key base hit. It was a 4-run sixth. The Dodgers took a 6-2 lead, only to have Brandon Belt hit a home run. So here we go in the bottom of the 7th against George Contos, with the Dodgers leading 6-3. Kemp and Ramirez joined again, and it is starting to look more like the ball club that the Dodgers had in spring training. George Contos was brought in last night in the 8th inning. Made a couple of pitches, gave up a key base hit, and had to come out. Contos from Lincolnwood, Illinois, went to Northwestern, but he said as a toddler he was under the care of his grandparents, so he spoke Greek before he could speak English. Outstanding athlete. He was a Gatorade Player of the Year in Illinois. So George ready to go to work. 6'3", 215, 28 years old. Fastball whacked down the line, foul. 0-1. So Ellis all over that first pitch. 0-1. We have time to tell you the paid attendance tonight. Fine crowd. 47,193. 47,193 on Beach Towel night. And ground ball into right field. So Ellis, who ripped the first pitch foul, goes the other way and comes up with his second hit. And Yasiel Puig coming up. Puig tonight hitting .425, fly to right center, lined out to left. I mean, he hit a ball right at Torres, and then last time up struck out. Puig deep in thought before getting in the box. In fact, he's going to make sure Contos is up on top before he gets in. 6-3 Dodgers, bottom of the 7th. That's a little slider for a strike. 0-1. Hanley Ramirez holding on to the bat that gave him that home run. 0-1. Contos just came up from Fresno yesterday. Fastball inside, 1-1. George had been with the club. He was optioned out June the 12th. He also threw a pitch close to Andrew McCutchen, and he got a 3-game suspension. 1-1. Fastball fouled off. Though coming right up and in at Puig. George, by the way, after being accused of intentionally hitting Andrew McCutchen of the Pirates, is appealing the suspension. Ellis at first, nobody out, 7th inning, 6-3 Dodgers with 10 hits. And Puig takes a little bit high, 2-2. Yasiel hitting .425, 7 home runs, 14 runs batted in. Came in with 58 total bases in his previous 20 games. Look where Posey is. And a high fly ball to right. So Posey was sitting off the plate for the slider, and Puig just did go at it, and a lazy fly ball to right. So Yasiel goes 0 for 4. And with one out, Adrian Gonzalez. That's what they're going to do. Just what Contos did. Up and in with the fastball, slider away. Gonzalez struck out, popped out, double to right. His double set fire to the ball club in the 6th inning, and that's when they came up with the 5 straight hits and the 4 runs. Breaking ball missed. 1 ball and no strikes. Final score, Washington defeated Arizona 7-5. Boy, Arizona has to worry. Trevor Cahill lost it. He is 3-9 in the dirt, ball 2. And Boston beat Colorado 11-4. Michael Kalaya did extend his hitting streak. Mike's hitting 22 straight. Philadelphia getting ready for the Dodgers. They're leading San Diego 6-2 in the 7th. Dominic Brown hit his 20th home run and knocked in 4. 2-0. Roller up the middle, right behind second is Crawford on the bag, throws to first, double play, and that's that. No runs, 1 hit, nobody left. Nice play for Brandon. We're heading for the 8th. 6-3 Dodgers. The Giants. It'll be Tim Lincecum for San Francisco and Clayton Kershaw for the Dodgers, and it'll be right here on KCAL 9. Then the Phillies come in, all 4 games with Philadelphia on prime ticket, 3 at night at 7 and Sunday at 1. Then the Dodgers go out on the road on a very important road trip: Colorado, San Francisco, and Arizona. And of course, Arizona lost tonight. Colorado was losing, so the Dodgers have a chance to inch a little bit closer, albeit 7 games back. They'll take it. But they have to win. And the Giants, who have been struggling of late, Giants have lost 7 of 10, and they began the night behind San Diego in 4th place, 3.5 back. So a lot at stake. And it'll be Marco Scutaro, followed by Buster Posey, and then Pablo Sandoval. Scutaro picking up good numbers as usual. 3 fly balls tonight. Equal opportunity hitter. He flied to center, flied to right, and flied to left. Against Ronald Belisario. Fastball, ball 1. Showed bunt. He had Punto on the move. Scudero is 2 for 4 in the past against Belisario. That's a strike. 1-1 to count. One ball and one strike. 6 runs, 10 hits for the Dodgers, 3 runs, 6 hits for the Giants. 2-1. Scudero trying to get something started with Buster Posey on deck. Two and one. Big chopper backing up, spearing it, Punto. So they keep Scudero off the base paths. He goes 0 for 4, and we have 1 out in the 8th. MLB.com at bat, the #1 source for live baseball everywhere you go. Available for iPhone, iPad, Android, and BlackBerry 10. At Bat delivers Dodger baseball with live audio, pitch tracking, stats, news, highlights, and more. Text At Bat 31826 or visit Dodgers.com for details. And here is Posey. Strike. Buster popped to short, homered in the 4th inning, and walked. Posey really comes alive late in games. Not that he doesn't play well in the first part, but look at it this way. From the 7th inning on this year, Buster Posey is hitting .372 with 4 home runs and 14 RBIs in the 7th inning or later. 1-2. Posey over the last 20 games prior to tonight hitting .342. Wow. Del Belisario at 94 blows Posey down. 2 out in the 8th. And the batter will be Sandoval. Boy, that fastball hurried its way up to Fedorovich. Now it's Sandoval. Pablo going through the routine, hitting .289. 8 home runs, 37 runs batted in. He has been doing that routine ever since he first came up. Ball 1. He wears a lot of batting gloves. Before the season, he orders at least 40 pair from a manufacturer in Venezuela. If he doesn't get any hits, he throws the batting gloves away. He pops it up. Here comes Punto. So Sandoval goes 0 for 4. There go the batting gloves. And we're heading to the bottom of the 8th. Dodgers 6, Giants 3. But they were tied 2-2 until Hanley Ramirez came up in the 6th inning with Gonzalez aboard, hit the foul pole, and the Dodgers took a 4-2 lead. And right now it's 6-3 Dodgers, and we go to the bottom of the 8th with Hanley leading off. Belisario breezed in the 8th inning, did not allow a ball out of the infield, struck out 1, made 10 pitches. Hanley, meanwhile, grounded to third, fouled out to the shortstop. His home run extended his hitting streak. He has hit now in 8 straight. Dodgers trying to make it 4 in a row and then send Kershaw to the mound tomorrow night. Bit of a different lineup with Puig and Kemp and Ramirez, Gonzalez, and Ethier. So we'll see if they can continue to manufacture runs with Philadelphia just around the corner. Hanley batting .350. You want to see how well he's been hitting? Look where Tim Wallach is. The third base coach who was hit by a Ramirez line drive right in the hip. He is as far away as he can be and still be helpful. Fouled away, 0-1. Ramirez, when he did hit the line drive that hit Wallach on the hip, Wallach said he never saw it. The Dodgers in the dugout said they never saw the ball. It was moving that fast. And then maybe 2 pitches later, Hanley hit it to the third balcony of the Western Metal Supply Company in San Diego. 0-1. And he hits that one in the gap to left center. Base hit. Over to cut it off is Blanco. So Ramirez goes 2 for 4. He's hit safely in 8 straight. There you go. I see you to the bench. And the batter will be Matt Kemp. Boy, what a hitter he is. Matt Kemp, in his return, flied to right, fouled out to first, and singled to right. So he has not pulled the ball. Of course, when he is really doing well, Matt hits a lot of balls to center and right center. Ramirez held on by Belt. Bottom of the 8th. 6-3 Dodgers. They have 11 hits. 2 off Contos. Ball 1. Ramirez does a lot of things. He does not steal. He has 1 stolen base. Good fastball. 1-1. When the Giants come up in the 9th inning, Hunter Pence, Brandon Belt, Andres Torres. One ball, 1 strike. 1-2. Dodgers scored 2 runs in the 3rd. Giants came back with a run in the 4th and a run in the 5th to tie it up. Dodgers got 4 in the bottom of the 6th. Ramirez home run, the big one. Mark Ellis homered and singled tonight in the leadoff spot to drive in 2. Pulled on the ground. They will get 2 maybe. Oh, a double clutch by Scudero. Couldn't get rid of the ball. So Kemp hits into what surely was a double play. And Scudero, I think, struck a finger in the throw from Brandon Crawford. Easy DP right there. And now watch. Ouch. Not ready. Oh, now I'll throw it. And Kemp beats the play. So that'll do it now. George Contos comes out. Andre Ethier will be coming up. They might bring in Javi Lopez. Nope, it'll be somebody else, and we'll be right back. Dodger Baseball on KCAL 9 is brought to you by Nissan's Sign and Drive event. Sign and drive today. Shop ChooseNissan.com. By Jack in the Box. Try Jack's Big Stack Burger. 2 jumbo beef patties stacked with onion rings, cheese, and pickles. And by SoCal Dodge Dealers and the Dodge Dart. Dodge, new rules. We're in the bottom of the 8th inning. Dodgers lead 6-3. Jose Mujeres, the other left-hander, besides Javi Lopez, coming in from the pen. He's from Caracas, Venezuela. I have been to Caracas once. The background on him is he's from the shantytown slums of Caracas, the worst area in Venezuela. Well, I will tell you, if you go to Caracas, the ship docks and you drive in a taxi, whatever, into town. And off to the left, you see the slum area. It's overwhelming. It just breaks your heart to look at it, and that's where this fella's from. He's 28. He'll be 29 the end of October. Slow breaking ball for a strike. Good pitch. Just to add to the background of Mujeres working on Andre Ethier, I mean, you're born in the worst slums in Venezuela, and he lost his mother and father by the time he was 10 years old. Foul back, fastball, 0-2. So it was his maternal grandmother who raised him and tried to shield him from the violence of the neighborhood. So he's come from nowhere. He was signed by the Twins back in 2002. Up and down with Rochester, finally to the Royals for a year, and came over to the Giants last year. Jose Mujeres, 0-2. Fastball, one hopper through the legs of Sandoval. And down to second base goes Matt Kemp. So if Pablo makes the play, that could have been a double play. Kemp came close to hitting into a double play, and Pablo just came up when it was going down. He'll draw the error. That will be the second error charge to the Giants. For Sandoval, that would be his 8th error. So first and second, 1 out. Here's Fedorovich. Fouled away. Two on, 1 out, 8th inning, 6-3 Dodgers. For the Giants, it's been Kickham, Dunning, Cantos, and Mujeres. Pick up, but no throw. Oh, and 1. Fastball in there for a strike. 0-2. Not only did this poor guy lose his mom and dad at 10 and grow up in the worst part of Caracas, his brother was murdered by a gunman. I mean, wow. You really have to root for him. 0-2. Breaking ball, short hop by Crawford, had trouble. They get 1, but not 2. That's 3 times the Giants have had an opportunity to come up with a double play. Crawford, short hop, but he couldn't get the ball out of the glove. So it's another force play. That ball's well hit, but he's got it all the way. Triple clutched, and that lost the play completely. So Matt Kemp has reached third. Fedorovich safely aboard at first. And that brings up Punto, hitting .263. 0-1. Good fastball at 91. Punto is 1 for 3. Made a fine play taking a base hit away from Sandoval. That was way back in the second inning. 1-1. Gary Hairston comes out on deck. He would bat for Belisario. One ball and one strike. Fastball flared to right. Here comes Pence and makes a sliding catch. So a nice play by Hunter Pence in right field. Punto loses a base hit and a run batted in. And the Dodgers come up empty despite the fact the Giants missed 3 double plays. And we're heading to the 9th. During the television schedule, we inadvertently had made a slip for tomorrow night. We had it at KCAL 9, where the games have been televised for the last 2 nights. But starting tomorrow night, the last 5 games of the homestand, all of them will be on Prime Ticket. 9th inning, 6-3 in favor of the Dodgers, and they give the ball to Brandon League with a 3-3 record, but a very high ERA, a little over 5. He'll be pitching to Hunter Pence, Brandon Belt, and Andres Torres. Belisario shut the door down during his work, and now we'll see Hunter Pence against Brandon League. Hunter Pence 0 for 5 in the past, and ball 1. Pence tonight fouled out, single to right, scored a run, and popped up. Made a nice catch on that ball hit by Punto. Two and 0 the count. Brandon League, born in Sacramento, raised in Honolulu. Originally a second-round pick by the Toronto Blue Jays in 2001. Fastball missed. So he's behind 3-0. 6 runs, 11 hits for the Dodgers. 3 runs, 6 hits, 2 errors for the Giants. In there, 3-1. Brandon turned 30 in March. And a little fly ball, going to be trouble. It's going to drop. So a little flare base hit, but the old baseball expression, it'll look like a line drive in the box score. Look at Kemp. He is pumped up, hollering into Ramirez. So a fly ball single by Pence. And the batter now, Brandon Belt. I don't think Hunter will be running down by 3 in the ninth, but it's good to point out he is 13 for 13 in stolen bases, and the Dodgers are not going to hold him on. Gonzalez is way back with a left-hand hitter up. If Pence runs the way the Dodgers are set up and Gonzalez creeping up behind him, it would be defensive indifference. There he goes. Ball 1. So it is the old defensive indifference, no stolen base. That takes the force play or the double play away. And now Fedorovich out to try and help Brandon Lee. Brandon, as you know, has been through some frustrating times this year. Belt grounded to first, got a little squib single to the left of the mound, and homered in the 7th inning. 1-1. Brandon Belt is 1 for 3 in the past against League. Down in the Dodger bullpen, Paco Rodriguez begins to warm up. One and 1. Ball 2. For League, he brings a lot of experience. He came up to the big leagues in 2004. Spent most of his career with the Blue Jays, 3 years with the Mariners, and with the Dodgers last year. 2-2. Pence at second, nobody out, 9th inning. 6-3 Dodgers. Two balls, 2 strikes. Ball 3. League throws a lot of different pitches, fastballs, 4-seamers, 2-seamers. Has a curveball, change, slider. Back about 5 years ago, he started throwing a splitter and dropped the changeup. 3-2. Fastball whacked in the gap. That's a base hit to the wall. So scoring easily is Pence. Going into second base with a double is Belt. And Brandon League is in a lot of trouble. So Pence scores a second time. Belt with his second hit and his second run batted in. So now it's 6-4 Dodgers. And the batter is Andre Torres. So the Giants trying to come alive as Belt doubles in the run. And a strike. 0-1 to Torres. Struck out, grounded out, popped up. 0 for 3. Torres faced League only once and walked. 0-2. (6-4) favor the Dodgers. They had a 6-2 lead, then 6-3, now 6-4. Slider fouled right into the Giant dugout. 0-2 to Andres Torres. Tomorrow night, hope he'll be out here with us in person if he can. Tim Lincecum, Clayton Kershaw, final game of the 3-game series. Fouled away down the line. Still 0-2. Kershaw still on the bench. Jerry Hairston, A.J. Ellis right there with him. No balls, 2 strikes. 1-2. That sinking fastball was clocked at 95. fouled at the plate. Torres, who was born in New Jersey but lives in Puerto Rico. He went to school at Miami-Dade Community College and was originally drafted by the Tigers. And a soft line drive, base hit. Here comes another run. On his way and then stopping is Torres. All of a sudden, it is 6-5, and Brandon League is in trouble, not to mention Don Mattingly and the Dodgers. So Torres, a base hit and a run batted in. The Brandon League has faced three batters. Pence single to left center. Belt double to right center. Torres singles to right. 2 runs are in. Don Mattingly going to the mound, and you're going to be aware of the crowd. So a meeting at the mound. Dodgers had Paco Rodriguez down in the pen. There goes Brandon. So League comes out, and the Dodger lead is now very much in jeopardy, and we'll be back. Is to face the left hand of Brandon Crawford, but they didn't think they'd have to bring him in after 3 consecutive hits, and the Giants scored twice to get within 1. It seemed like just a few minutes ago the Dodgers had a very comfortable 6-2 lead, but the Giants are not about to give up, and they came back with 1 on the home run by Belt in the 7th inning, and with 2 singles and a double in the 9th, they are very much alive, down by 1. Brandon Crawford, followed by Perez, a pinch hitter, and then Blanco. Paco Rodriguez and Crawford, they faced each other twice, and Crawford has struck out twice. Brandon is 1 for 3, single to right field in the 7th inning. Big, slow breaking ball. Ball 1. Andres Torres, carrying the tying run over there, has stolen 2 out of 3. Roberto Kelly over to say something to him. 6-5 Dodgers, hanging on in the top of the 9th. 1-1. Peter Moylan now gets up in the Dodger bullpen. they have worked Kenley Jansen hard 3 days in a row. So we didn't expect to see Kenley, not tonight. 1-1. Breaking ball, ball 2. Juan Perez, an outfielder, out on deck. He would hit for Mojadas. 2-1. Paco paying him a visit. Nobody out, 2 runs in, 9th inning. 6-5 Dodgers. Fedorovich checking, thinking about pitch out. Breaking ball in there. 2-2. Late movement. Not great velocity, only 80 miles an hour. But Crawford quit on it, thinking it was going to be inside. 2-2 to Brandon. Pence single, Belt double, Torres single, and the Giants get off the floor. Two balls, 2 strikes. Ground ball in the hole by the diving Ellis. Stopping at second is Torres. So the Dodgers had a 5 consecutive hit 6th inning. The Giants now have a 4 consecutive hit 9th inning. And not only do the Giants have the tying run at second, they have a possible go-ahead run at first. And a heartbroken Brandon Lee in the Dodger dugout. Ground ball just by Ellis' effort. So a meeting at the mound. They want to find out and talk over Juan Perez. Juan Perez was born in the Bronx and still lives in the Bronx. But when he went to school, he went to Western Oklahoma State Junior College. Actually, his family moved to the United States from the Dominican Republic. He went unnoticed, undrafted, and then played in the Caribbean League in New York. Eventually went to school at Western Oklahoma, and the Giants drafted him 5 years ago in the 13th round. He can play second, third, or the outfield, and he's 5'11", 185. Made his major league debut in June and made a remarkable running catch of a ball hit by Paul Goldschmidt of Arizona. All right, he's up there in a big spot against Paco, and the Dodgers figure he's up there to bunt. So both Gonzalez and Punto shorten up. He's gonna bunt. Fouled it at the plate, and the count 0-1. Perez has 1 sacrifice. Bochy sending the sign on to Tim Flannery. On deck, the leadoff man, Gregor Blanco. 6-5 Dodgers, and they are hanging on. Let's face it, 9th inning, 4 straight hits. Takes the bat back and takes a strike. 0-2. Juan runs very, very fast, so he'll put some pressure on if he gets the bunt down. Swinging and lines it foul. Still 0-2 to Perez. You have Torres at second, Crawford at first. Dodgers trying to hold on to a 6-5 lead. Fife, Howell, Belisario, League, and now Paco. Oh, and 2. And ball 1. Juan Perez is hitting .300. Hasn't played much. Way off the plate. 2 and 2. Perez in his limited time has grounded into 2 double plays. 2 and 2. Fouled off. It's interesting what the Dodgers are doing against the Giants. The top 4 in the Giant lineup, I mean, you're talking good hitters. They have 1 hit. It was a home run by Posey. The top 4 are 1 for 14. But 5 through 9, they are 9 for 19 as Hunter Pence looks on. 2 and 2. High fly ball. Kemp coming in a hurry. The runners will have to hold, and that's their first out. That was a big out, taking the bunt away from Juan Perez. So Perez can't do it. The runners have to hold. Sergio Blanco coming up. Blanco grounded out, flied to left, walked, and grounded out. So Blanco 0 for 3, and he has been a very, very efficient hitter with runners on, and especially with runners in scoring position. He might be hitting .298, but with runners in scoring position, Blanco is hitting .353. Remember also, he's had a wonderful month of June. He's had 29 hits in June. He was hitting .363 in the month of June. So Paco figures to have his hands full with Torres at second and Crawford at first with 1 out. The infield back except for Punto, who's up about even with the bag at third. Blanco, among other things, has 3 bunt singles this year, and he also has a dozen infield hits. So you really have to be on your toes when he's at the plate. Look out. And I believe he was hit by the pitch, but he hasn't moved. Somehow he avoided it. It was a big changeup that just got away. I mean, if you're going to take one for the club, that would have been a pretty good pitch to take for the club. Could have just taken that on the hip, but he didn't. So Paco got away with one. 1 ball and no strikes to Blanco. Torres and Crawford on the lines. Breaking ball and a good one. Blanco bailed on it. 1 and 1. Two on. Torres at second. Crawford at first. Gregor Blanco at the plate. Fastball on the hands. So after the slow curveball and the change that almost hit him, Paco finally throws the fastball. 1 and 2 to Gregor Blanco. Another breaking ball swung on and missed. The Blanco strikes out. Big breaking ball. 2 out. And now Paco has to work on the last fellow you'd expect to swing and miss. Marco Scutaro. You're right. If you remember, he struck out to end the game last night. Scutaro tonight, 0 for 4. He flied to center, flied to right, flied to left, and grounded to third. And of course, Scutaro trying to keep the game alive with Buster Posey on deck. Big crowd, 47,193, and they have seen a dandy. 2 on, 2 out. Dodgers lead 6-5. Breaking ball low, ball 1. Fastball, cutter, slider, and change. That's what you get from Paco. Fastball in there. Crowd standing. It's one of those games, and we are starting to get into that time of the year. Dodgers trying to win 4 in a row. Trying to pick up a game on Arizona, who lost. And the Giants are standing in the way. It has ever been so. Fastball lifted to center. Matt Kemp going back, away back to the track, and makes the catch. Whoa, what a way to end the game. The Dodgers have won 4 in a row. And wouldn't you know, something dramatic would happen tonight. Matt Kemp returns, hadn't played since the last week in May, and he makes a spectacular catch, depriving the Giants of a tying and go-ahead run. And the Dodgers hang on. Rodriguez made 19 pitches after the disappearance of Brandon League, and Kemp saves the night, pounding the wall with emotion, then hollering he had to let something out. Scutaro, as usual, makes a valiant effort, and Kemp beats him to the wall. Wow, what a finish. And remember, tomorrow night, yeah, there'll be more. Tim Lincecum, Clayton Kershaw. Sure hope you'll be out here with us. Till then, we wish you all a very pleasant good night, everybody.